All right, Veronica, why don't you introduce the topic?
Okay, so there's a lot of Mexican-born kids that were born in Mexico that came to the United States when they were 4 or 5 years old that did not get to learn the history of Mexico like we learned it from the social studies book, part of our upbringing. We're going to talk about a character that's very important in the history of Mexico, even when Mexico was not Mexico.
Can we get camera 2 anchors?
When Mexico was just different empires of different civilizations like the Mayans and the Aztecs. A woman. So I love it. I love it that we're going to talk about a woman.
A betrayal.
Nope. Her name is La Malinche. La Malintzin. Also, it was like the Indian name, La Malintzin. Or Doña Marina.
That was her baptized Spanish name by the
Christian
Spanish.
name.
Yeah.
The Christian
so anyways,
name, Doña
who was La Malinche?
La Malinche was an Indian, an Otomi Mayan Indian.
We gotta keep that in mind because that's gonna be important.
Keep in mind.
She was Mayan, and what was the other?
Otomi.
Otomi. Those are 2 different tribes that the Spaniards actually met with before going to what is now called Ciudad de Mexico or Mexico City.
Yeah.
So we got to keep that in mind because that's very important.
Okay, so that's another thing that's very important. Mexico was not what it is today. It was not unified. It was not Mexico. It was not unified. There were tribes that were against each other all the time.
There were a lot of battles. Yeah.
A lot of battles. Okay. So that's part of the context, part of the history. Malinche is an Indian that is sold or given to. We don't know if she was sold or just given to Hernán Cortés, which was the first and the most important colonizer, conqueror, because he was here to conquer. He was here to wage war. He even set fire on his vessels, on his ships, to make sure that his people were not going to return back home.
Which was
all his army,
No, what was home back then?
Spain.
España, right?
La Gran Española. Yeah, like El Española.
One of the islands.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And he made sure, because the people, when they saw the Aztecs, they were really freaked out. They thought these are like really savages, really wild people.
Okay, that's good to know. So Hernán Cortés at first was just a general. He had all this army behind him, and they heard all these things about a great city that had all this gold, and you could just see it everywhere, and diamonds. Well, I don't know about diamonds, but gold in general, right? Riches.
Precious stones, yeah.
And so he comes in, and then he meets all these tribes. And even there at the coast of Mexico, they were like, yeah, we heard about this place that's supposed to be big. It's a big city and stuff like that. So that's where he starts his journey towards what is called Ciudad de Mexico.
What is now in the central part of Mexico, the country, Mexico City.
So La Malinche comes in when?
The Malinche comes in, I don't know exactly at what point, but she was used as an interpreter. She knew the languages of Nahuatl and the Mayan. And apparently she picked up Spanish really quick and really well. So she was able to become I would say her presence was very important because she was able to negotiate, be like that bridge, that cultural bridge. And the interpreters are always very important.
Definitely. I mean, well, if you don't mind, we can talk about what you do on your side job, which is interpret. Besides interpret, or more like, now it's called translator, right?
No, translator is for written documents. Interpreter is for verbal.
So what you do actually is you translate, or you translate from one language.
Interpret.
Translating
is for documents.
Okay. You interpret exactly what this person's trying to say. And you adapted on what the other language is.
Exactly.
And reasoning is differently,
exactly.
Right?
And sometimes it's not literal. Sometimes it's not literal. Like the interpretation or the translation, like you say, is not literal because you know that there's nuances and that there's context. So an interpreter has to go behind that and say, well, really what they meant was this, even though
Yep.
literally,
So you use what you know about, and you have to learn both cultures, right?
you have to
be
learn
able
both
to
cultures
actually
to be able to switch,
Okay, so this is
to do the
important right
switch.
here.
So it's
'Cause-
super important.
So La Malinche, her main role was to translate or interpret, she had to learn how the Spanish thought and what exactly they were saying.
But listen, she learned it from being Hernan Cortés' lover as well.
Uh-huh.
So I think that gives another dimension to the man. Like you learn so many things, like the pillow talk that they talk, that people speak about. You learn so much information, maybe about what the plans of Hernan Cortés were, what his country was like, what his culture was like. She was very intimate with the man. She is the mother of a word that we use a lot, mestizaje, even though her son is not the first mestizo. A
What is
mestizo
mestizo?
is a mix of a Spanish with native,
Mhm.
Native American Indian, but not American Indian like how you think about it. We're talking about Mayans, we're talking about Aztecs, Otomís,
the indigenous.
all these things, indigenous. She had a son with Hernan Cortés. His name was Martín Cortés. So she's the mother of mestizaje. So
Yeah.
it was in her best interest to understand both cultures. Now she had family with a man.
Yeah, well, let's put it this way. You're given to this army, and then all of a sudden you're with the leader. At first, I think she was with another guy. And then
They
Hernan
upgraded her.
Cortés-
They're like, she's kind of smart and she's kind of, let's upgrade her.
Well, Hernan Cortés kind of fell in love with her according to the romanticism of the story.
Okay.
But anyways, she ends up with the leader, with Hernan Cortés, who was actually the one that wanted to go to
They want to conquer
Yeah.
the Aztecs.
Tenochtitlan. And so anyways, this is actually where the story becomes very interesting, because now you're part of this. You're creating a family, right? With this conquistador.
Yeah.
So you're not a service woman anymore. You're family of this person, right?
I'm not sure how he viewed her.
Probably not, but if you have kids with anybody, I think you become family automatically, right?
I don't know.
Well, yeah, you're right.
The patriarchy has been very brutal, especially back then. Women, if we think women are seen as objects now, can you imagine back then?
Yeah, worse. Well, like you started, she was given to this people, right? So she pretty much didn't have another option. But anyway, so she becomes the official interpreter, and they head to Tenochtitlan, which is
Interpreter and translator, because I'm sure she did a lot of written documents as well.
But
letters.
Why we call her a traitor? Why is this Malinche?
I
How does
think-
this become?
Can I
Malinche?
tell you
What is
why?
Malinche?
Malinche is also like, her name was Malintzin, but like it sounds like Malinche, Malipinchingado, Malinche. Like it sounds the connotation is very negative to me. But if you want my opinion, and you know that I'm trying to be,
First of all, explain what is Malinche again.
Malinche is her name. Malintzin was her
No, but
name.
what's the meaning now?
Oh, the meaning now when you say no seas Malinche, like we can tell people don't be a Malinche, don't be like a Malintzin, means that you sell your country, vende patrias. You're a traitor. You're a traitor. I don't know who they're calling a traitor, because why are the Mayans
Who were fighting with
not traitors?
with
They
the
were
Aztecs.
fighting the Aztecs, and somehow the Mayans are not traitors. They're part of our heritage. But Malinche, who was doing the same thing the Mayans were, is now a traitor. If you ask me, it's all about being a woman. It's the same curse that Eve has with the story of Adam and Eve. It's maybe like the wars that are created by women, Helena de Troya, Helen from Troy. Like it's always, you got to blame it on a woman, right? And I think it's the escapism of the
men.
fault of men.
Yeah,
Yes.
definitely.
When in reality, they're using a woman, they're using her softness, they're using her skills, they're using her as a bridge to be able to achieve something. But men can be so violent between them, especially when they're opposing parties and it's an army, that sometimes a woman can come in and become a good bridge or a good,
Equalizer.
equalizer. Yeah. I think they used her definitely. And now she's supposed to be the biggest traitor.
Yeah. So now when people call somebody else La Malinche or El Malinche, because they use it on men as well, is like, you're trading us. You're trading your family. Or a lot of Mexicans use it like, you're trading your own people. When in this case, she wasn't even trading. I mean, she was not a traitor. She was just doing what she was hired to do, or what these guys
She
got
was
her to
a survivor.
Definitely.
She was a person that adapted well. She was a visionary. She probably could see what the future of Mexico, even though it was not known as Mexico back then, was going to be. Now that these people that brought these technologies, the weapons that they brought, the vessels that they had, she knew things were up. Something's up, and she probably was she was a woman of adventure.
Well, first
probably.
of all, she was smart. Because she used to speak Nahuatl and Mayan. She automatically makes her bilingual. And then she learned Spanish.
Really quick.
So she was pretty smart. And besides that, when you're interpreting.
Yeah, you can call them translators.
And
fine.
she's trying to, in both ways, right? Like she's talking to indigenous people, and then she's talking to the Spanish. She becomes political.
Yeah.
She becomes that political person that's actually negotiating things. So I'm pretty sure that she was not telling the Aztecs everything Hernan Cortés was saying. Because
as an interpreter, she had the interpreter's advantage. But
vice versa.
I mean, who knows whose side she was in? She was on probably Hernan Cortés, because that was her
definitely.
husband at that point. If she's a visionary, she probably thought, okay, honestly, from these Aztecs that everybody hates them because they are blood. They love violence. They love human sacrifices. Exactly. So she's seeing what the Aztecs are, and she's seeing maybe the stories that she hears from Europe and what that is, and the civilization and how people have rules and government and all these things. She may have thought, well, I think I'm like this better. And she was probably, as a visionary, wanting that for her family. Now she had kids, she wanted that for the world, for her children.
Besides that, Hernan Cortés, the way he recruited so many indigenous people, because people may not know this, but there was a bunch of different tribes that fought along.
That went with him.
With Hernan Cortés.
And that's karma. And that's karma. I'm telling you, like if the Aztecs had planted so much terror in all these other indigenous communities, they were going to march with the enemy, and that's just part of like what you said. Sometimes even if we don't like it, we cannot accept not accept the consequences of our actions.
One other thing was that Hernan Cortés promised these people a lot of things, including part of the gold. Because at first when, and this is actually in the history book.
That's politics as well.
Yeah.
Hey, join me and you'll get a share of the pie.
According to this history book that I read a long time ago, when the Spanish showed up in Tlaxcala, and whoever was like the head of the governor
of Tlaxcala,
he was like, why do you want gold? I mean, corn is much more efficient. This is going to keep you alive. It's great for people. It's what all people want. Why do you want gold? But anyways, they convinced him to bring his men along with Hernan Cortés and the Spanish, and they were going to share some of this gold. This is the thing. Indigenous people, according to history, they were very naive at the time. They did not see the greedy that the Spanish were. They were like, yeah, we're going to share all this gold with you. But no, they wanted everything for them. So whenever they conquered or they took over Tenochtitlan, they were like, they didn't give them anything.
Guess what? The gold is just ours.
Just ours. Mm-hmm. And it was all like that since day one.
It reminds me of a certain president that we have right now that promised a lot of things to the people that helped him get to where he's now at. And then and he's always done to his business, alliances. He'll just like, oh, I'm bankrupt. I can't pay you. Oh, no, I've changed my mind.
So anyways, going back to La Malinche, which is now used like a term to call somebody a traitor, pretty much.
I don't appreciate that. I don't appreciate that because it's a woman It's a person that was a facilitator. She's the mother of the mestizaje, which is a representation of what a Mexican is. You're a mestizo, I'm a mestiza. So like suddenly we're calling our mother kind of like Eve. Eve has the same thing. She is the mother of the human race, according to the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow she's got this stigma all over her of being an evil woman because she's the one that told Adam that they had to partake of the forbidden fruit. When in reality, we know that without them partaking of forbidden fruit, we would not exist because they didn't know what sex was. They didn't know like that forbidden fruit allowed them to be able to procreate. So it's once again, a good thing happened. I think it was a good thing that the Aztecs were conquered, to tell you the truth. I mean, honestly, like it was inevitable. The technology was there. They needed the metals to create things that our people did not know of yet, and it was inevitable. Technology was coming. A new world was coming for them. And we have this woman that plays a very important role in all of that happening. The same with Eve. We're all here. Humanity exists because of Eve and because of sex. But somehow we have to blame her.
True.
The same with a Malinche.
Well, yeah, you're right. I was going to kind of focus on the culture because Mexican people, we're Mexicans. We have always lived as the victim. We have always seen ourselves like the victim. First, the conquistadors come in, they take everything. They take the gold, something that we didn't care about.
Exactly.
And all of a sudden it becomes so fucking important because the Spanish took it and we're the victims, right? Now we're like, oh, we could have kept all the gold. First of all, you did not.
What for? What were you going to do with it? At that point, there was no plans for the gold. The Europeans knew how to melt it, how to create things that would last longer, structures and things with the gold. And
another thing, like, for example, when the Americans took half of our land, we became the victims. Oh, the gringos took all this stuff. Well, before that, California and Texas and
what is now Utah, much ignored.
Nobody lived there. The population was really small. Why didn't you do anything about it? You see what I'm saying? So we're always playing the victim here. And calling somebody this term la Malinche or el Malinche to just refer to them as a traitor, it's part of our culture too. It's part of we're the victim and you're bad because you're going with the opposite. I mean, with our
honestly, what's happening there
like
now that you're focusing on the cultural aspect of it, what's happening there is a resentment that we are not as big as the countries that have come and taken over us. We were not as big as big depends on how you define it, because we were big in the natural aspects of things, but Spain definitely was stronger than us militarily and technology.
It was the biggest empire.
Okay, so Spain, and then who took over after that was the United States. That took like half of our our land, what you were talking about. So instead of like us being appreciative or optimistic about it, since we're not as big as them, we're not as big. It's almost like we have this illusion that if Spain hadn't done what they did, or the United States hadn't taken over our lands, we would be as big as them, which is a false analogy.
Of course.
Just because they came over and took what you had doesn't mean that you would have not run what you had to the ground, which is very possible that we would have done.
This is the thing.
Both the Aztecs killed the Mayans, killed every other.
In what was Mexico, if you want to put it in that term, it was small. It was not even what
Los Mexicas or Mexico.
It was not south of Mexico or north of Mexico, what it is now. So all these people pretending.
Spain actually helped create Mexico.
Of course. Spain created Mexico.
They needed a map. They needed to say this region is ours. It's not yours, Portugal, because Portugal was another big colonizer at that point, and they were like neighbors, and they were always like rivals. Portugal, for example, took over Brazil. They took over Brazil, which was like a big chunk of land in South America. So Spain created Mexico.
Oh, no doubt. So I think this idea of we're always trying to blame another person for whatever. And if we get the camera number one, we can explain it better too. we're always, as Mexicans in this case, we're always trying to blame people, right? And then sometimes we try to make other people less. And by using this term, el Malinche, it's just bad. It's just a way to kind of show our roots in a bad way.
Show where we're coming from.
Like,
however, a lot of people, the term is being lost. Honestly,
I'm glad.
before,
it's a stupid.
because it is a negative.
To me, it's just
a
stupid.
negative.
First of all, because if we really look at the history, she was not even what they call them Mexicas at the time. She was a different tribe. They were fighting the Mexicas.
She did not betray her own people because her people were not Mexicas.
Her people were being slaughtered by the Aztecs. How did she betray the Aztecs?
Exactly.
I mean, first of all, it's not even right. But anyways, that's the history behind it. But now that it's being used like that, I think it's very negative. I think it
has been negative, but what my point was, I think the new generation, the people that we're doing this podcast for, maybe people that are born of Mexican parents, but they were born here, and then maybe they never even heard the term. Like Viri was telling us, she just had recently learned about it, and she thought it was really cool. And for us, it was growing up. But honestly, like, we grew up in the 80s, a little bit the 90s.
I'm sure our family uses that for sure.
Yeah, yes, my parents, but I hadn't heard that term in a while. Had you?
I'm sure in Mexico still.
It's still very prevalent. Yeah. Maybe we've been here for too long. I've been here for like 20-some years. So.
Well, anyways, that's pretty much what I think about this term. I think it's used incorrectly, first of all.
Yes.
Historically wise.
Yes.
Second.
What about Pocahontas? Do you think Americans see her as some kind of...
Would you call somebody Pocahontas?
Treacherous? Do you think like someone that betrayed the Native American?
Yeah.
She's seen more like a sexy girl, right? Like,
well,
especially after the Disney
even
movie.
On Disney, yeah.
Yeah, after the Disney movie, I was like, hot damn, she's...
this is why I'm getting into the cultural thing. Like Mexicans, since we're always the victims for everything. Anything that happens to us, we're trying to blame it on somebody else, right?
Yeah.
And if we see one of us, whatever decision they take, going with our enemy in this case, oh, it's bad. Yeah, you're betraying your own people, your own blood, or you're making me less because I'm brown, or some shit like that, right? I think it comes a lot from that mentality.
But yeah, I would just want to research a little bit about Pocahontas if she was ever given that negative connotation.
Oh, hell no.
I think a little bit. Yeah. Actually, remember, like the movie, her family and her community was totally against her.
And she was definitely more like a real Malinche.
Because that was her own community.
Yeah.
That she was like, she told them where the land was, or what they were looking for, basically led them there, right? So, no, I do think she was seen as a figure that was problematic at one point, but it's the same thing. It's always the woman. What I'm trying to say. Let's blame something. Let's not blame the men that were trying to take over the other men's lands and possessions. No es culpa de ellos. It's not their fault. It's Pocahontas' fault for betraying. As if these men were not going to do it even without the help of Pocahontas. Pocahontas helped, and she was a piece of the puzzle, important piece, just like the Malinche. But remember that the ones that were trying to conquer and the ones that had the plan to kill whoever got in their way was really the men that were coming from a different country and a different continent.
So the men used the woman?
I'm saying, and you know that I'm going to start a podcast soon more about feminism and stuff. I'm saying that this is a pattern that men have always used women when it's really them with their agendas of war and violence and killing, but somehow, pinche Pocahontas. It was Pocahontas. Malinche. Si no hubiera sido por la Malinche, if it hadn't been for them, you see, like how the patriarchy does not allow men to be put in a bad light.
Do you think Hernan Cortés and his people would have taken over Tenochtitlan if it wasn't for La Malinche?
Yeah.
You think
that
so?
technology was there. The
Probably would have
passion.
taken more
It would
time.
have taken more time. She was definitely an important piece, something that helped. But I think that the passion. I mean, Hernan Cortés had set fire to the vessels before the Malinche. You know, like that was part. Like we're not leaving here unless we're victorious. That was his thinking.
I don't think Hernan Cortés would have taken Tenochtitlan if it wasn't for La Malinche.
You don't think so? Because he wouldn't have been able to get all the other indigenous tribes. I think he would have maybe through force, like force them. You know how when you have slaves and you don't need to communicate too much by saying you are in this war with us, you fight with us, or we kill you. I mean that's pretty.
Yeah,
it's survival.
I don't think
know?
I don't think it would have been him though. I think it would have been somebody else that would have come later with more men.
More organization,
yeah,
more routes, the routes figured out.
Yeah, definitely. Because he only had 500 men. He only had 11 horses. And he only had like 20 something canyons. So, I mean, no, there's no way. So,
but what you don't know,
when you're going against
what we're not talking
over
about,
a million of population.
Yes, no, that was crazy.
Yeah.
But what we're not talking about here that is a very crucial piece and is very interesting for anyone that considers themselves Mexican but was not raised in Mexico, so they don't know a lot of the history, is that the Aztecs were actually, there was a prophecy. They had their own religion. Mm-hmm. And there was a prophecy that allowed the Spanish to be, when they first saw them, to be seen as gods. Did you know that?
At first they did, yeah.
So that lowered their level of warfare. I mean, they were not willing to go to battle against the gods at first.
At first, yeah, but by the time
but think about that element of surprise and that element of we're like, oh my gosh, the prophecy is like the second coming of Jesus Christ. If the white evangelicals, Southern Belt, believed that something great happens and we see a person descending from heaven, let's just say it's all magic. It's all David Copperfield. Let's just say it's all a trick. But if we would believe that was Jesus Christ, it would disarm us and we wouldn't be there to fight. And that's exactly what happened to the Aztecs. When you say 1 million versus 500, the element of the Aztecs not wanting to fight at first is huge.
I think that happened to the first people they met by the coast. But once it
happened with the Aztecs as well. Because the Aztecs,
because by the time,
have you been to Tenochtitlan?
Yes, I've been.
Okay, the pyramids tienen a la serpiente emplumada, where la serpiente emplumada is the god. That represents the god that was supposed to come and teach them great things because it's a whole prophecy. So, yes, the Aztecs were waiting on that as well.
I think by the time Cortés and his men got to meet, what's the leader's name? I forgot.
Moctezuma?
Moctezuma. This guy already knew that these guys were slaughtering people. They were like, these guys are not what we think they are in the prophecy. They're coming here to take over what we have. So
I don't know. I would have liked to lived in those times.
I think at first people were believing that. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, these guys come and they're horses. They never seen horses. They never seen ships. They never seen anything like that. So we're like, oh, this is different. And then with the fucking canyons that fucking throws fire and shit. They were like, oh, this is different. But then they're like,
and they also brought
killing
disease.
people.
They also brought disease. Yeah.
They're killing people. The smallpox that, I mean, many indigenous people died without even seeing a fucking Spaniard because this was spreading out like crazy.
And that's why mestizaje and I'm about to like ADD this whole conversation. I'm about to go to like another episode that we had with Químico del Amor. That's when the immune systems, remember when he said that it's the pheromone, like the smell when a man and a woman are trying to get together and see if they're going to have children. The smell is very important. The chemicals in the saliva, in the kiss. I like the kiss. No, I didn't like the kiss. That was because when the immune systems are different, you create a stronger race. Because if the new mestizos, like just say Martin Cortés, would have had a natural immunity of to smallpox,
yeah,
versus maybe any other Indian child, right? So in a way, they were able also to conquer Mexico, those 500 men, just because of the disease that they brought.
Yeah, that's pretty, like maybe 40 to 50% of the reason why. That's for sure. Because by the time they fought this big population of Aztec warriors, half of them were sick. They couldn't even fight. But I do think that La Malinche plays a big role here because she got to convince the other pueblos, the other tribes, the other towns, or the other ethnicities of indigenous people to fight with the Spanish. And again, because the Spanish promised them land and all this other shit.
She was doing the negotiations. Oh, we'll get you land afterwards. And this is a person that looks like you, that is of your...
Definitely.
You know, and they're like, okay, so we're going to believe her.
Yeah, we're going to kill the people that's been killing us all this fucking decades and I don't know how long.
That we're so afraid of. Yeah.
So anyways, I think, first of all, I don't think Cortez would have done it without La Malinche.
Yeah.
And but anyways,
I think someone else would have come, like you said, someone else from Spain once they knew.
Oh, definitely, because the governor of what's now Cuba, they did send somebody else. Once they found
reinforcements.
Out, yeah,
reinforcements.
Once they found out that Cortez was doing some shit, they were like, "Oh, what the fuck's that guy doing?"
And there's real gold. It's not, like.
So maybe them, I don't know, but it would have not been that easy without La Malinche helping.
Yeah,
Hernan Cortez, that's for sure. And now that you mentioned about the Spanish mixing with the indigenous women, the Spanish fucking smelled bad. They were stinky as fuck. They did not shower for months.
That the Indian,
maybe sometimes years.
Well,
compared to the indigenous.
But it's also like it's not fair because they were in a ship for so long.
No. Don't change this. The fucking Spanish. They did not have the cultural habits for hygiene. Yeah, they didn't fucking care about it. While Moctezuma, in this case, he used to shower twice a day. It's documented. So
that's what I'm saying. We were developed in many
would you lay with a guy that stinks?
I think
at
that point
like
the women were being raped. I don't think that they were laying down voluntarily. But again, patriarchy.
Cool.
What does a woman know? Why are we respecting her wishes anyway? Malinche was sold. Like, ¿qué importa? La mujer.
At the end, Hernan Cortez left her.
Yeah.
Once Hernan Cortez's wife came from Spain directly to Mexico. Once he became
move
big,
over, bitch.
He became a big person, a big fucking owner of all this shit. Then it's like, oh, even the king of Spain was like, oh, there's a guy named Hernan Cortez. He took all this land for us, and now we're gonna create something.
Was he the first virrey? Maybe.
No, somebody else. They treated him like shit at the end.
Yeah.
They gave him like small area, which still exists in Mexico. It's called El Palacio de Ortez or La Casa de Cortez, some shit like that. You can still see it in Mexico City.
But I've never been to, so that means that it wasn't that great. Yeah. I haven't been to visit it.
I've seen it.
Palacio de Cortez.
Está en el centro.
Really?
Anyways, all right. Thank you all. This is great
history time with your uncle HP and Tía Vero. We'll see ya.
Y el primo.
All right.